Welcome to the next edition of the Briefings Direct podcast series. I'm Dana Gardner, Principal Analyst at Inter Arbor Solutions, your host and moderator. Today's Briefings Direct IT Security Best Practices discussion examines how a leading German home builder has adjusted to a major economic market disruption. While not long ago surging, Germany's home building demand has recently reversed, putting pressure on builders to reduce IT costs while remaining secure. Stay with us now as we learn how a large and distributed workforce can be best supported by IT, even as conditions change and budget requirements lead to consolidation. Here to share his story of how an efficient security team rapidly shifts from managing surging growth to optimizing around necessary contraction is our guest. Please join me now in welcoming Johannes Hammann, Information Security Officer at DFH Gruppe in Semmering, Rhineland-Pfalz, Germany. Welcome, Johannes.
Hello. Thanks for having me here.
We're delighted to have you. So tell us a little bit about DFH Gruppe. You're a big maker of prefab homes and how the market contraction in the construction business there for homes has changed.
Yeah, of course. So DFH Gruppe is the largest maker of prefab houses in Germany. And in 2021, we created more than 3,200 houses in this year. And we have more than 1,300 employees in Germany and the Czech Republic that help us to build these houses. And this is quite a high, let's say, level of throughput that we had. But as you have learned from the news, maybe there were some changes in the last month that lead us to, or triggered some change inside our company. Because, from our customer's perspective, there's increased requirement to get a mortgage for a house, like higher equity, higher interest rates, and less subsidies by the state. And on the other hand, also material costs were rising, and also the politics were shifting towards multi-family housing. So this is quite of a, not phrase it as a game changer, but it changes a lot for us, and we had to react to it. And of course, there were a lot of years with very high growth. There was some way from our start to getting to 3,200 houses per year. But now we need to consolidate and also adapt and react to the new situation. And of course, this also affects IT and security.
Certainly, yes. We're all at the whim of things that are outside of our control, but what we can control, we need to control. So how is your business in IT adjusted to the need for doing more with less?
Yeah, so first of all, it's also a chance for us, not only a risk to say so, because in a period of very high growth, there are other priorities in IT than, for example, security and also maybe, let's say, structuring processes in a way that they are very efficient and very stable, because you just have to keep pace with like the throughput in the company. You just have to implement systems, fix issues, so that and the next house can be constructed. So this is a chance now, doing a bit of a consolidation, breathing again, taking a step back. We can look at a lot of our processes, increase the efficiency, implement new tools, which we haven't had time before to do this. Yes.
Yeah, many times in the past when we've had disruptions, either from growth or rapid changes or contraction, we try to work smart and using technology to its best advantage. So perhaps as we learn more about how you've been able to do that, why don't you explain a little bit about your particular challenge, and that you have a large distributed workforce in the field, you work with many partners, you have a large supply chain. Tell us a little bit about the task that DFH is involved with, and then we can perhaps understand better your IT challenges too.
Yeah, of course. So as you said, we have quite a distributed workforce. We are focused on the German market, but that doesn't mean that we are doing everything in-house. You can imagine building a house and also designing a house and constructing it is quite a large process and needs a lot of experts in the whole process. And for example, we have more than 650 sales contractors being spread around whole Germany that are, let's say, working independently, but being the consultant and also salesperson, sales expert, consulting our customers in the process of buying and building a home. And also, as you can imagine, we cannot have, let's say, all different types of handyman that is needed in constructing a house. So we have more than 260 partners of all sizes, from small companies, let's say 2 or 3 handymen and someone in the back office, to very large companies having, let's say, also 500 to 1,000 employees that are supporting us with different steps in the house building process, like heating, like building all the electricity stuff in there and so on. And we need to coordinate, we need to manage all of these in the whole process. And as you can imagine, every external partner has different rules, different policies, different mindset, a different background. So it's really hard to keep everyone on, let's say, on the same page, especially with respect to security.
Yes, it sounds like there's a great diversity, particularly among the IT, but also the workforce and style and culture. So that means that you're sort of the hub on this multi-spoked wheel. How can you impose security without alienating or slowing people down? That must be a difficult balance.
Yeah, it is actually. And I mean, we try to consider everyone's needs and requirements in this whole process. But also, as I said before, we are seeing it more as a, let's say, as an opportunity for everyone, not as a, let's say, slowdown mechanism as some people are seeing it. Because security is a door opener for so many process optimizations, for so many innovative ideas. I mean, if you, for example, try to implement, let's say, security in a part of a process, you also have the chance to remodel the process to be more efficient in general, or also to create, let's say, a new business model out of it. And this is the story that we want to tell everyone, and that we also want everyone to understand. And yeah, and also on the other hand, we try to spend not too much time on, let's say, the really complicated things, and keep these things away from our users, for example, and our partners. So we want to, let's say, build a platform, build a solution that everyone can use. But why should a sales expert, for example, think about specific security topics? I mean, we as an IT, we as a, let's say, the FH-Gruppe should just implement a solution, provide this as a service to our to our internal customers, to our employees, and then, yeah, I think this is a good trade-off between having a high level of security and also not slowing down the business.
Sure, yeah. So sort of re-engineering and taking advantage of technology. What was it about the technology you were using before you were under this pressure that made it difficult to achieve your goals? And why have technology changes in terms of people and process as well as product helped you?
Yeah, so I mean, everyone knows that there were a lot of huge technology advancement in the last month and years regarding AI and all this stuff, but also going a bit before. I mean, as I said, the focus in the past in this high growth phase was not on security, not on getting the latest product and the latest, let's say, most innovative technology, but we had just, let's say, security and also the IT infrastructure that was working fine and was delivering the, let's say, or fulfilling the needs that the business had. But what we did in the last 1 to 2 years is looking for, let's say, what has happened in the meantime, in the meanwhile, in, let's say, from vendor side, from conceptual side. I mean, there were a lot of transformations, especially with respect to security, like getting towards zero trust, for example. I mean, this is quite a new concept, and you need to rethink a lot of things, a lot of decisions you did in the past. Yes.
Part of the ability to control for security gives you more data, which you can use to then be more productive. Have you been able to be seen by your larger IT organization as security not as a hurdle or a challenge, but security as perhaps a helper or an accelerator to better productivity overall?
So we are currently working on this, and also, let's say, getting transparency for this aspect of security. I mean, what we have achieved already is that security is one, let's say, is a good vehicle actually to transport this whole KPI, approach into other departments or other areas of the company. Because I mean, we in security and also in IT, we try to measure everything. We try to measure uptime, we try to measure incidents and so on. And you can transform or adapt these concepts also to more business related processes. And I think this is a huge advantage that we are currently trying to transport and also to, let's say, market to our colleagues. Because also, I mean, we have seen this in software development, but in IT in general, some concepts like how to do projects, how to achieve a high quality in very complex environments, there are very good concepts in IT that we can adapt to business, right?
Yes, I think that's right. The productivity isn't just about technology and IT productivity, but overall business productivity, which is, of course, so important when you're trying to do more with less. Tell me a little bit, if you could, Johannes, about being more data-driven and KPI-oriented by measuring and testing and then verifying the results. What do you need to put in place in order to get the data to do that? And yes, you're doing it for security, but you're also getting tracking and observations and metrics and using agents to sniff out things that you might not have even known were going on. So how important is it to get the information and how do you go about doing that?
Yeah, I mean, it's very important because, I mean, we are also implementing an information security management system, so ISMS. And I mean, everything in this system, or the main concept of this system, is that everything should be risk oriented. And also for, let's say, measuring a risk somehow accurate, you need these data, you need this performance indicators so that you can say this risk is higher than the other one, or in this direction of risks, let's say 1,000 incidents has happened, but in the other one only 20 have happened. So this is why we need it. And what we have seen is a lot of tools that we were using that were doing their job quite well, but they were coming from another age of IT, to tell it like this. I mean, this performance indicator or KPI driven approach was not implemented. So it's very hard to get this data out of it, or get this data in an aggregated way out of it. So currently, for all new solutions that we are implementing, for all new concepts that we are implementing, we are also trying to consider what data can we get out of it, and how can we use this data to, let's say, drive further decisions,
Yeah, to make those prioritizations over what's going to be impactful and important versus what is more noise in the background is important. But It's also important not to just look to the past and say, oh, here's what happened, now we react, but to perhaps get more predictive and be able to get out in front of these trends. Have you been able to, in a sense, reduce the amount of time that it takes to react so that you're not doing backward-looking analysis, but perhaps doing forward-looking implementation?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Also, I mean, this is part of an ISMS to also, let's say, consolidate and streamline these processes. But let me make an example. I mean, in the past, we were looking at the past, of course, but we were spending a lot of time on let's say, day-to-day activities. For example, rolling out an endpoint security solution, or rolling out an update of an endpoint security solution to a client. And I mean, this was using up a lot of our time that we had as a resource in IT, and streamlining all of these, let's say, very basic tasks that shouldn't, let's say, to be an investment of more than some minutes, in my opinion. Streamlining all of these tasks creates a lot of let's say, new time budget that we can implement in looking forward, looking for new solutions, looking for optimizations for already existing products, looking for integrations between products that we already have, between processes that we already have. And this is our main focus currently. Yeah.
Sure. When you have a limited budget for new hiring, and skills are hard to come by in the best of times too, you want to look to the technology to take the rote repetitive tasks away from the people so that they can focus more on the analytics, on the innovation, on the business level productivity. So do you see in the use of security technology now that ability to offload some tasks and free up human capital to do what it does best?
Yeah, I mean, there are some examples. I mean, there will be more to come. As I said, based on AI, for example, there are a lot of tasks that we can shift towards automation or automate in some way. But also, I mean, just make one example. I mean, if you take let's say an average endpoint security solution from today, every solution has like a cloud sandbox or something like this, like this automatic like execution and also analysis of let's say suspicious file. In the past, one expert from our company or from a contractor had to invest the time to analyze this suspicious file to be sure that it is not harmful, for example. And now it's just like happening in the background. You, at some point in time, you get a feedback, it's malicious or not, and that's all. So you are saving actually a lot of time and also a lot of money in automating this stuff. And also in the future, I mean, there are a lot of other topics like network detection and response and so on, which is just building up, like it's just the start from what I feel, from what we can do with automation, and also like not only that we do not have the personnel anymore, but also having a very high quality of results at the end.
Sure. And going back to the fact that you have a large distributed workforce, they're out at these sites, putting these homes together. They're organizing with many contractors and from, many different destinations. If you can make their jobs easier, they're of course going to be happy to work with you and adopt your approaches. And so security, once again, can be seen not as, we have to go through these arduous tasks in order to be secure, but that in fact you're helping them. And so do you find that the user buy-in is shifting? Are you getting a sense that when you do this well, when security becomes a accelerator to productivity, that you get people's cooperation and even eagerness to adopt your tools and processes?
Yeah, I believe so, because I mean, we have one advantage now that we haven't had maybe 3 or 5 years ago, because a lot of people are used to some security measures, let's say multi-factor authentication. Everyone knows this from their personal accounts at online shops, at different vendors and so on. So there is some base work that was already done on the consumer market. And I think a lot of companies were affected by cyber attacks, for example, having business disruptions and so on. So a lot of people were also feeling like, let's say, the result of not investing in security, not collaborating with security. And I think this is a very good starting point for also this distributed workforce with very different levels of understanding and background, of course, regarding IT and security, to get invested in this topic and also be a part of this topic. But on the other hand, I or my colleagues, we also have to make sure that we take their opinion and their special needs inside all of our decisions. I mean, we cannot consider every requirement, of course. I mean, some people just want to make it easy, so no password, no everything. But we still have to try to consider that different people have different, let's say, use different mechanics or have different working habits that we need to consider.
Alrighty. Now we've been putting this just through the lens of security, but there's also requirements for compliance, privacy, documentation, auditing. GDPR, of course, comes to mind. And so we all have to do things that we might think are, difficult or put more burden on people. But are you able to bring this sense of productivity, automation, and intelligence to your requirements around compliance as well?
Yeah, I mean, on the one hand, it's easier to let's say don't know the correct word for it now, but I mean it's easier to show others that you are being compliant if you have all the possibilities to get like the metrics out of, let's say, our software, for example. I mean, and also if you have transparency in the processes, in the let's say technical and also business processes, because then you can easily show everyone that is interested, okay, we are doing it in this and this and this way, also with respect to this documentation, and everyone can understand what we are doing, if it's compliant or not. I think in the past it was more like a black box. Yeah, and I think this is a very good thing at the end.
Yeah, it sounds like there's a bit of a multiplier effect. If you can do the due diligence for security, then you get the means to adhere to the compliance requirements, which then leads you to be able to further automate and take load off of the humans, which then leads back to more technology. So perhaps there becomes an adoption virtuous cycle. Is that possible or something you're already seeing?
Yes, and this is also what we try to, let's say, to enforce, because I mean, if this, let's say, positive cycle is started, it's easy to keep it alive and keep it running, and this is what we try to achieve, of course. Yeah.
Sure. And in order to get that cycle ramped up, you want to have proof points and metrics. And so are there any ways that you measure how you're improving security and therefore also improving business productivity that will cut costs and improve and optimize the business results? Any measurements or examples that you can provide on how this is helping your organization, I think would be very interesting for our audience.
Yeah. So I have not. We do not have these, let's say, absolute numbers yet that we can share. Also, the relation, or like it's not the relativity is not there, because we have just started to measure these things. But I mean, there are a lot of, let's say, soft metrics, I would call it like this, from different conversations with colleagues from different, like, so for example, we are doing this whole risk management process, of course, of being part of an ISMS. And in this whole process, it's also not about risk, it's also about chances, right? And also from there are a lot of, let's say, results coming out that at least have the possibility to help the business to run more efficient, to do more with less. And currently we are trying to measure it and also build up, like, let's say, like a KPI framework for measuring all of these things, but it's very, very complex, especially if you have like when you have such a distributed and company and workforce.
Mm-hmm. Are there any what we would call low-lying fruit indicators, perhaps the number of calls to your help desk, trouble tickets, less time on security administration, anything like that you can point to and say, aha, our investments are paying back and we are achieving the higher productivity while remaining secure?
Yes, there's one I can share with respect to our endpoint security solution that we switched in beginning of last year. And with the new solution, we estimated that about 40% less time was spent on this security administration task. For example, this rollout, this patch management of this solution, and so on. And also, there's about 90% less security-related trouble inquiries after we have implemented this, because we have like now one dashboard. We are it's very easy for us to react also to false positives if there are any, and let's say track them down and do the follow up steps to clean it up and not trigger them again in the future, hopefully. So these are two KPIs I can share with you. Yeah.
All righty. Before we finish our very interesting conversation, Johannes, how in the future do you expect to be able to further this analysis, positive feedback, improvement cycle? Do you think that, having more analytics in the cloud and using outside suppliers as a security operations center, if you will, is in the works? How do you foresee in the next 3 to 5 years how security can continue to be an accelerant to productivity?
Mm-hmm. So you mean especially on our company or in the general?
Both for your company,
Okay.
but also I think that would be an indicator of the larger environment too.
Yeah, I think one large, let's say, um, or one thing that we need to consider is focusing, because as you mentioned before, it's quite hard to get very skilled personnel. Also, I mean, if you are a security expert, I mean, there are very large companies having large security operation centers where you may want to work. I don't know, but maybe not in this in a construction company. Yeah, so there is a very high competition on the job market, and this is what I mean with focus. So I think in the next years, in order to achieve a higher level of security and also maintain this level of security, we need to focus on what we can do with our workforce that we have, like with our partner network, with our internal colleagues, and yeah, we need to get the best out of what we can do from the inside, and also do, let's say, well thought through outsourcing. As you mentioned, for example, MDR, like managed detection and response, or also like a managed security operations center. So everything that you can't do perfectly inside because you're not having the resources, not having the workforce for this, outsource it, but control it well. Like, steer it well. And I think this is a thing that a lot of companies are needing to adapt to, a pattern that are needing to adapt to in the future, because I think maybe this is special to the German market. Some of the companies were very, let's say, on premises and very like protective in the last years. And this has to open up. I mean, a lot of vendors are also thriving more towards cloud and cloud only, of course. I mean, you're without any option then as a company, but also to open up for new concepts, for new collaboration concepts between internal workforce or internal experts and also the external, let's say, experts for specific topics like SOC. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. I guess that changes the nature of your supplier from vendor to partner, right?
Correct. A long-term partner. Yeah.
Well, great. I'm afraid we'll have to leave it there. You've been listening to a sponsored Briefings Direct discussion on how a leading German home builder has adjusted to a major economic market disruption. And we've learned how an efficient IT security team can rapidly shift from managing surging growth to optimizing around necessary contraction, but at higher productivity. So please join me now in thanking our guest. We've been here with Johannes Hamann, Information Security Officer at DFH Gruppe in Semmeren, Rheinland-Pfalz, Germany. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm Dana Gardner, Principal Analyst at Inter Arbor Solutions, your host and moderator for this ongoing series of Briefings Direct discussions. A big thank you to our sponsor, Bitdefender, for supporting these presentations. And also a big thank you to you, our audience, for joining. Please pass this on to your IT and security communities and do come back next time.